That's the other thing about Judaism now, is that it's very hard to find Jews who believe anything superstitious in the service of their Judaism. I debate conservative rabbis who don't even believe in God, apparently. They believe, or the God they believe in is just like, quantum mechanics or just pure energy, or it's not a God who can hear prayers.
I believe in the Force.
Yes, I've met that rabbi. Yeah. So it's so my bias toward Israel, whenever you're talking about the conflict between Israel and her neighbors, my bias towards Israel is really a bias against suicide bombing and the use of human shields and an explicitly genocidal aspiration which Hamas has in its charter, and many of Israel's antagonists have just in the way they talk about the fate of the Jews. I mean, it is prophesized that the end times will come when the very earth cries out against the Jews, where the trees and the rocks say, "There's a Jew behind me, come kill him." I mean, that is like center of the fairway Islamic prophecy, right? And it's in the charter of Hamas, right? So can Israel expect to deal with these people, right?
So I think you illustrated in that piece that if the weapons were reversed, if the Israelis had the weapons that Hamas has and Hamas had the weapons the Israelis had, well, this thing would be over tomorrow because there would be a genocide tomorrow, which to me sort of sums up why this conversation is so silly.
That is the moral disparity that all of Israel's critics have to admit to be intellectually honest here.
You try to do something like untangle the Israel-Palestine conflict. I mean, one of the things you just to start with is like, okay, how far back are you going to go? Well, I would say it depends on what argument you want to make. If you want to make argument A, you go back 100 years. If you want to make argument B, you go back 3,000 years. And then you could have an argument about which time scale you should use, but it's not like it's obvious. Is it 10 years? Is it 1 year? Is it 6 months? It's not 3,000 years. Is it 2,999 years? Like, where are the borders of relevancy when you're laying out the landscape of the argument? God only knows. It's intractable.
I better give you the straight answer. I think Zionism, the idea of building a state of Jewish farmers on Arab land in the Middle East, is a stupid idea to begin with. I've always thought so. My mother wanted to go and be a Zionist immigrant at one point. I tried to talk her out of it. It's been a thing in my family. I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a messianic idea. I think it's a superstitious idea. And I think
so the idea of Israel's right to exist is
now that it's there,
has no play with you.
Many states are founded on injustices or foolishness and bad ideas.
And boundaries are drawn by all kinds of political.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that anyone can just come and evict or destroy them. And I'm not saying that, but I think I'd have to say, so as not to seem shady, I've always thought it's a silly, messianic, superstitious nationalist idea, and it's a waste of Judaism. And it guaranteed a quarrel with the Arabs because it meant we're going to take away from you what's most precious, your land, by trying to make Jews into peasants. Already a silly idea. That's not the way to rescue Central European Jewry, make them into farmers in Palestine. Guaranteed an injustice to the Arabs, which now anyone can see, and is now entering its third, fourth generation. Fourth generation of Palestinians brought up either in exile or dispossession or under occupation and humiliation. And now we know that something has to be done to address what is part of the original, let's not call it original sin, original misconception of the thing. So I've been writing in favor of the Palestinian homeland all my life, and I'm no more, no less in favor of it than I was because of recent events.
And now the Bush administration is
in favor. It's a matter of principle.
And now the Bush administration is in favor of it.
Well, yes, they were edging towards it. It's a pity about the timing, because they were edging towards it before. I don't want it to look as if they did it as a concession. But it should be a matter of principle. If Jews born in Brooklyn have a right to a state in Palestine, then Palestinians born in Jerusalem have a right to a state in Palestine. Anyone who doesn't agree with that principle, I think, is suspect.
I think most people do.
They do, but but why in that case do we have the one and not the other? After all, it's America that pays for all this and arms the Israelis and is very much involved in it. If it's a matter of principle, then we should have witnessed to it a bit more forcibly than we did.
There's an issue that has always puzzled me, and this issue is people that lean left, people that consider themselves progressives, have a very distinct, very obvious bias against criticizing Islam, criticizing Islamic terrorism, criticizing Islamic suppression of women, you know, criticizing these cultures.
Right.
Under the guise of not wanting to promote Islamophobia and things along those lines. And I've always wondered how much of what that is a fear of reprisal, of speaking out against them is terrifying.
Right.
So what they do instead is embrace the cultural differences that these people exhibit, concentrate instead on the positive aspects of their community and the good things about Muslim culture and Islamic culture, and does not bring it up at all. Like, you very rarely hear people on the left talk about how oppressive and horrific some of the conditions that women and homosexuals are forced to live in Muslim cultures.
Right.
And I've always wondered if that's what that is. Like, there's because no one in modern day, no one ideology is more brutal in their reprisal. I mean, they kill apostates, right? They kill people who leave. If you join, you can join. No one's stopping them. The whole idea of spreading Islam is that you should be proselytizing. You should be getting people to join because it is the only truth. It's the only way to go. But once you do join, you're in. Like, you're not allowed to leave.
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, let's actually do this one. I think it's important.
Okay.
But they didn't start that. We Jews started this, so far as I know. So if you go
proselytizing?
No. We don't proselytize. But the once you're in, you're in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you go to Deuteronomy, I think it says something to the effect of, if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, let's worship gods not known to the fathers, set upon them with a stone before anyone else gets there."
But are you supposed to do that to someone who is already converted to?
Yeah, if you're in.
Right, if you're in.
If you're in and somebody says, "Hey, let's go worship other gods," you're supposed to kill them.
But what if that, that's interesting, right?
So
it's an old idea.
It's an old idea, and it's not an Islamic idea.
Right.
It's a Jewish idea, in my opinion.
Okay.
Okay.
But it does exist today primarily.
So I asked my rabbi about this, and she said,
"You have a female rabbi?"
Oh, yeah.
You progressive motherfucker, you. Look at you.
No, I actually.
I like it.
I'm proud of this. I have a rabbi who happens to be female.
Okay.
It's like, I don't get it.
Was she born female, or is it one of them?
She's all woman, all rabbi.
Allegedly, they're all women. Caitlyn Jenner's all woman.
How many incendiary topics do you want to get?
All of them.
No. Let's just turn everything up to 11.
That's what I do.
Okay.
Come on, man. I'm a comedian.
All right.
I don't have a boss.
Well, in 3 minutes, I'm about to be a target.
Oh,
okay.
You're no target.
Anyway,
okay, you're female rabbi.
Yeah. So her point was, and we don't execute anybody because, in effect, that portion of the code never runs. So the Jews have figured out how to have bad code that is almost permanently inoperative.